Hi. The finale. I should have recorded this is on Friday the 13th, shouldn't I? It is Friday, but it's not the 13th. But it would have been apt. The horror movie that's about leadership. The demand for employee surveillance software peaked in March 2020 and has continued to increase to today. It is becoming the new norm in our organisations. We do not have leaders who can measure performance based on outcomes rather than hours at the desk. They measure outputs, not inputs. Because this prevailing belief that keyboard strokes equals productivity. And that is just the worst indictment for so-called leaderships across our organisations. That we cannot lead and manage people unless we monitor what they're doing. So we have bosses who are command and control, micromanagers. And in the finale, the employee, the victim, says, "I've had enough," and escapes from the movie. In the closing scenes, called The Great Realization, that I deserve better than this. Because bosses who are using surveillance and micromanaging are shouting, screaming one thing: I do not trust you. I do not want to work for a boss who says that to me. And that's exactly what they're saying. And in an article I wrote back in February last year, I introduced my hybrid leadership model, the traits that leaders need an uplift in to effectively lead a hybrid and or remote team. I talked about capacities. You can see them there. I'm not going to explain each of them. They should be self-explanatory. Go back and look at my posts from February last year called Hybrid Leadership Model. You can now see the competencies that leaders need to lead the hybrid team. Unfortunately, the investment in this leadership development is not happening. Now, there are some leaders who just don't want to change. I won't call them leaders. The micromanagers, the command and control, their comfort. They're in their comfort zone. They've never done it any other way. They fear losing control. There's a lack of trust and respect. But there are some leaders who will probably want to change, but no one's ever invested in their development in these areas to enable them to be better leaders. So the time is now, because employees are leaving. They've had enough. They said they deserve better. So it's time for change. Absolutely. Never has the inability of our so-called leadership, the inability of leaders to lead, been exposed as now. Be afraid. Be very afraid.